Hey guys, and welcome to day 8 in my countdown to The Walking Dead Season 7 premiere. So today I am continuing with my list of 100 best moments. Let's just get right into it. So number 60 on the list is when Eugene finally tells the truth. I think maybe a lot of other people would put this moment a lot higher on the list, but as someone who's reading the comics, I kind of knew it was going to come at some point, and yeah, but it still made the list because it's just, it was so well done, and the way that Eugene said it and the way that Abraham kind of took it was really so tense, and I think, and Abraham knocking the fuck out of Eugene was quite something. It just kind of shattered everybody's hopes and dreams that there could be something to be done, and that just got kind of ripped away. I personally am a fan of there never being a cure. I like that the show is about just dealing with the circumstance and not going too much into the like nitty-gritty of, you know, why it happened and whatever. I don't know, that's probably just me, but yeah, I think that this moment really kind of just, yeah, and the flashbacks with Abraham and having that all come full circle was just amazing. Number 59 on the list is when Rick reunites with Lori and Carl. Such an emotional moment for such a, you know, early episode. I think it really kind of showed that, oh, this is actually going to be, you know, there's going to be horror elements to the show, but there's also going to be a ton of emotion. And the way that Andrew Lincoln act and Sarah Wayne Callies, I just think that they both did a very, very good job in portraying that scene and just making us feel so fucking happy for Rick that he found his family, but also then we're like, oh shit, but Shane and Lori, oh fuck, now it's awkward. Number 58 on the list is in the season 3 premiere when the group of Rick, Daryl, Glenn, Maggie, and T-Dog took the prison and essentially just cleared out the prison, just kind of the 5 of them, as everybody else kind of helped as well. You could just see that this group that really were kind of unsure about each other in season 2 really banded together. Everybody knows their roles. Everybody knows what they're doing. It was just it's good fun to watch, and especially going back and watching it knowing that no one dies, it's definitely a good fun to watch. Number 57 on the list is back in season 2, and it is very the Man versus Wild Daryl Dixon edition, if you want to call it that, in Chupacabra, when he is kind of knocked out and envisioning Merle and really just starts reverting kind of to a very savage killer when it comes to the walkers and putting the ears around his neck. It was just such a great insight into his character that he really, you know, he doesn't really feel like he belongs with Rick's group at that point. And it was so interesting to see him kind of go back to how it was when it was just him and Merle. We didn't actually get to see any of that dynamic. And it's so strange that it seems, you know, Michael Rooker and Norman Reedus did such a good job in that scene that we felt like we knew their relationship all along, even though we never saw any scenes with them together. At that point. Number 56 is a little bit on the sentimental side, and I think a moment that gets forgotten a lot. It is in season 2, and it is when Herschel gives Glenn his watch, and he basically says, no man is good enough for your little girl until one is. The watch is so important. Watches on the show are so fucking important. But this particular watch is my favorite, if that makes sense. I could do a list of top 10 watches in The Walking Dead, but the symbolism of it all, you know, Herschel's a very protective father, and to see that he saw such a great guy in Glenn, and just thinking like I would be absolutely, you know, it wasn't really like Glenn was asking his permission to marry or anything, but I think Herschel kind of said like, oh, I see this guy's being a good son-in-law. And it was just such a sweet moment where it gives Glenn a lot of the confidence that I feel like he needed. And also it was just a big step for Herschel too, you know, that to pass on this watch that means so much to him. And it's kind of like passing the torch to another kind-hearted soul who also knows how to handle tough situations. I think Herschel couldn't have been happier for, you know, of who Maggie kind of chose to spend the rest of her life with. Number 55 on the list is Bob's last words before he goes. Bob, I think, is a very underrated character. I think we spent the first, or at least I spent the first bit of watching his character skeptical of him and not knowing because he's an alcoholic and there were some issues. But towards the end of his run, he was such a great character in general. And his last words, man, they got to me. I can't express enough how much I cried and how much I didn't think I was really going to cry. Because, you know, once we saw the tainted meat moment, we kind of knew that he wasn't going to make it. And I was like, you know, it's okay. You know, I liked Bob, but it wasn't. His final words where he kind of, you know, he said some great things to Rick, and he had a small moment with Maggie. But Sasha, it made me bawl my eyes out when he's talking about being positive. It's kind of his thing with her, is to always look on the brighter side. And, you know, he's giving her all of these positive things to look forward to, even though he's literally dying, and for her to be like, well, what if that's not enough? You know, and he just dies. He's no longer there. It just crushed my heart, and that, you know, he really was the one thing that was keeping Sasha in a somewhat positive state. And, you know, we just see her kind of spiral really after that. And, you know, it doesn't help what happens with Tyrese later on. I mean, it's tragic. Number 54 on the list is Morgan and his wife. I actually said this as the defining moment of season 1. So this is the moment where Morgan has to shoot his wife, and we actually find out later that he doesn't actually shoot his wife. But the whole scene is really tough to watch, and it just kind of is very indicative of what the show is really about. It's losing people and coping with it, and can you cope with it? And it's this kind of big moment for him, and we actually find out that he actually didn't put her down, which led to his son's death. And it's just such a sad moment, seeing him look through that scope and trying his hardest to put down the woman that he loves so much. Number 53 on the list is the Rick-tatorship speech at the end of season 2, where Rick basically says, you know, this ain't a democracy anymore, bitches. Okay, I'm a more of a fan of a democracy kind of thing with Rick. I think at the beginning of season 3, kind of up until he lost Lori, he seemed to be getting the job done, but he seemed to be a little unhinged. And I think that comes with a lot of stuff that happened with Shane and all of that. But this moment where I think he just got tired. He got tired of everybody complaining about all the decisions that he made, but they're not willing to step up and make the decisions themselves. What I loved about the moment is when, I think it was Carol was like, "Oh, Daryl, are you going to do anything about it?" And Daryl was like, "I know, he makes a point." And he's like, "Rick's done all right by me, so okay." I just really like that moment that he kind of stuck by him in that. And I just think that the speech kind of gives you a little bit of like chills and like, oh shit, like, the evolution of Rick is really kind of what drives this story in a lot of ways. And that was a huge moment for him. Number 52 on the list is when Daryl finds Carol in the prison after the kind of Walker attack from the Killer Within. It was unknown whether Carol was alive or not. I figured she would turn up alive. I remember being kind of worried, but not, thinking that she was actually going to turn up alive. But the moment is just so fucking sweet, and seeing Daryl carry her, she really is the first person to really put a lot of faith in him, and losing her, I think, hit Daryl a lot harder than he really anticipated. And just watching him kind of get that little bit of hope back into his life was really sweet and such a happy moment, even though there's not a ton of those. Speaking of happy moments, number 51 on the list is when Rick and Michonne finally get together in the last season. Oh my God. Okay, so some people don't like Rick and Michonne together. I am not one of those people. So here's how I feel about Rick and Michonne in particular. I didn't really need Rick to be in a relationship. I'm not somebody who needs a whole lot of relationships and love, especially in like The Walking Dead. I think, Glenn and Maggie are perfect, and they give us our dose of beautiful moments, and I don't need too much besides that. However, if Rick was going to be with anybody, it better be Michonne, and none of that Jesse shit that was happening. I think Rick needs a woman by his side that is a warrior just like him, and just, stands with him against all of the problems that he's going to face. And I felt like they were kind of already a couple, they just didn't know it yet. Like a lot of things with season 4 and on, you could just see them be really kind of close together and rely on each other and like really love each other. So it was great to see that solidified in this moment. Number 50 on the list is in the mid-season premiere of season 5, when it was basically the return of the dead with Tyrese's kind of battle of his conscience, basically, where he is seeing characters that we have lost. And it was, I thought that there was something really great about it, a very crowd-pleasing moment where we saw some of the people that we've loved and lost. Although, why couldn't we have gotten Herschel? Was Scott Wilson busy? Like, what? Well, does anybody know about that? Because I would have loved to see Herschel. But I think that there was a lot of different characters that had a lot of it, and just seeing the governor was so good. I mean, I loved seeing everybody else, but like when he came out, I was like, oh shit, and it was just so exciting. I absolutely loved, I loved the whole episode, even though I felt bad that that's the way that Tyrese went, like a bite on the arm, and but the episode was really, really great, exploring Tyrese's character, and that scene in particular I just fucking loved. Number 49 on the list is another one that I think is slightly underrated, but this was actually, I will say that this is actually one of the moments that pushed me and Kevin over the edge that we wanted to react to The Walking Dead. And it was in season 5, episode 14, where Eugene saves Tara. We watched, and this is the episode before we started reacting, so we started with the next one after it. And this episode, you would have thought we were just sitting on our couch, and you would have thought we were watching the football or the Super Bowl of our favorite football team. Like, we were cheering so loud. We love Eugene. I really love Eugene, and the fact that he's been a coward for so long, but he, you know, Tara's like his bestie at this point, and he just like flung her over his shoulder and saves her life. I cannot, and I know a lot of people don't talk about this moment that much, but I think it was just such a great turning point for his character, and I fucking loved it. Number 48 on the list is actually 2 episodes from the last moment, and that is when Rick kills Pete. I don't know where you guys would rank this on the list, but I personally put it a little lower than maybe some people would, or higher, depending on how you look at it. But because I kind of knew it was going to happen. They do deter from the comics a lot, but it just seemed like it was going in that direction anyway. Me and Kevin were like, I have a feeling that the season is probably... We actually thought the season was going to end with the wolves coming to Alexandria, but it didn't, and that's fine. But I really, you know, we kind of figured that at some point in the finale, Rick was going to kill Pete. It was still so very satisfying though, even if you knew it was coming. Number 47 on the list is kind of on the list for pure shock value, and that is the sort of the beginning scene of No Sanctuary, where they are at the trough and the termites are just slitting the throats of, starting with Sam, but quite a few others, getting to Glenn and stopping. That was a little like, oh, how convenient, but whatever. That episode was so good, I could give a shit. So that whole scene was just gruesome and grimy, and you know, Greg Nicotero didn't really tell anybody how he was going to do the effects for that, so their reactions are pretty real and raw, and oh my god, I had to put this pretty high on the list because it just, man, it just makes you uncomfortable to watch, and you're just like, holy fuck, these people are crazy. It's just such a shocking moment. Number 46 on the list is when Rick finally says, "We are the Walking Dead," and that whole speech. That episode is a really depressing episode, but I love it. It's kind of the lowest of the low that the group's ever been in, and I think it was the perfect moment for Rick to kind of give this speech and talk about and kind of say to the audience, the Walking Dead is not, it's not the walkers, it's us. You know, we're just going through the motions. We're just trying to get to the next point. It wasn't the biggest motivational speech that I've ever heard in my fucking life, but it was definitely a great moment, and just him saying, "We are the Walking Dead" is just, I don't know, it gave me chills. Number 45 on the list is the Daryl and Beth fight in Still. I know a lot of you are gonna roll your eyes. I don't care. I think this fight is just, it broke my heart in a lot of ways. I think that they had to get a lot of stuff off their chests. I think I loved that Daryl really started to like cut to her. You know, he was saying, you know, you're never going to see Rick again. You're never going to see Maggie again. And she was kind of giving it back to him, which I feel like Daryl is not used to. And I feel like Beth wouldn't have done it if they weren't in kind of the situation that they were. You know, I think if it was in the beginning of the season, she would be like, you know, and kind of just take a step back. But at this point, what have you got to lose? You literally have one person that you're surviving with, and he doesn't think that they're ever going to see anybody again. And, you know, she believes so much, and what is so heart-wrenching is that he finally reunites with everybody, and she really doesn't. You know, she has a few moments with people before the tragedy happens at the end of the mid-season finale of season 5, but that's what's kind of sad when you go back and watch this scene and you see this this girl who's trying to be like, you know, they can still be alive, stop being so negative, and he is, you know, he's the one who actually reunites with them. And the fact that he kind of breaks down at the end, because I feel like Daryl only thinks that his purpose in the group, which is not true, but he thinks his purpose in the group is just to protect people, and the fact that he failed in that and he stopped looking for the governor and he just breaks down, and, you know, he talks about, you know, and your dad, Herschel, what happened to him, it's heart-wrenching. I fucking love that scene. Number 44 on the list is when Carol finally comes clean with Tyrese. This scene, like, I feel like just the heart is racing, and I was nervous. They were really going at it with this episode. You know, we lost Micah, then we lost Lizzie, and I was like, oh my god, Tyrese is gonna shoot Carol in the face, and I would have been really upset about that. But at the same time, you're like, oh my god, he's kind of justified though. Holy shit. You know, why is it, you know, Carol can't be the only one who can decide who lives and who dies. Fuck. Like, and there's just so many layers to the situation in that scene that is just so insane. And I am so very happy that Tyrese spared Carol's life. If you guys didn't know, I think they talked about it in the Talking Dead, but the puzzle that they were doing the whole episode with the girls, and Carol was doing with the girls, is actually a picture of Sophia coming out of the barn, just to even add more layers to the shit of this episode. Oh my god, that scene was crazy. Number 43 is going back to the mid-season finale of season 4, where Rick and Carl find the baby seat and some blood, and Judith not in it. So Judith's death, she didn't die. It doesn't make me cry any less when I think the first time I watched it, I got really, really emotional. I didn't entirely know that she was dead, but just the idea of her being in there and helpless, and something coming and eating her, was just, it was a little too much. And I remember getting very emotional after that. And Rick's reaction was insane. Carl's reaction, I lost it when Rick comes from the back and like hugs him and just starts crying. It was just, you're gonna see a lot of, just so you know, in the top 40 of this list, you're going to see people's deaths be pretty high up, but you're also going to see people's reactions of people's deaths as well. Because I think what this show does really well is not just the death scenes, but the reaction of someone they loved after they find out they died or whatever. Those ones can really, and this is a perfect example of Carl just losing it. You know, Judith is his sister, and I know, and just Rick and Carl like holding each other and trying to get out of there is just, it's heartbreaking. Number 42 on the list is the 18 miles out fight between Rick and Shane. I really like this episode. I think some people didn't like it. I think it really brought everything to the forefront that Shane is trying to kill Rick, and he's trying to take his family, and he's, oh my God, the fight was insane. The whole sequence with leaving Randall and what to do, and this kind of clash between these two men is just, and they're best friends too. I think if the whole Lori thing affair, I have a problem calling it an affair. I know most of you hate Lori. I did not, because, I mean, she legitimately thought that Rick was dead, and not that, you know, I would do the same, but, you know, people grieve and people cope, and I think everybody needs to lighten up a little bit. However, I believe if the Lori factor wasn't there, Shane would have been a great asset beside Rick once he got to the point where Rick is at in the show now. And it's really interesting to go back and watch that fight and watch the butting of heads of these two guys that think they know what's best for the group. And I'm entirely and completely Team Rick, but it's still interesting to see the dynamic between the two. And number 41 on the list, and the last moment of this video, is Glenn's speech in No Way Out. Again, maybe something that's a little overlooked. People wouldn't really pick this and make it that high. I thought it was so, every time I rewatch No Way Out, which is a lot, listening to Glenn speak about how the people who have died before live on through you, and if you keep trying and you keep surviving and you keep trying to make the world a better place, they did not die in vain. And it just, to me, it brought so many emotions about all of the people that we've lost, and that, yeah, they probably would have died in vain if everybody just kind of gave up after that. I don't think anyone in general would have wanted people to give up after, you know, like there's Beth, for an example. When she died, I don't, you know, I absolutely believe that she would have wanted everybody to keep living their lives, keep being a strong person. You know, she says to Daryl, I'll be gone soon, but you need to remember that you still need to be a good person, and you need to, and I think that she had an effect on him because of that. And, you know, what, you know, they wouldn't want you to give up, and him trying to convince Enid of that is just, it's such a beautiful moment. Again, I don't know how high a lot of people would put this on their list, but it just, I think it's one of the main reasons why Glenn is such, he's, you know, I love him because of, you know, things like this, where he's so emotionally and mentally strong, and you need that, because a lot of other people kind of fall apart. They could be physically strong, but they fall apart pretty easily. Glenn he's pretty solid on the emotional side, if that makes sense. Even when he thought he lost everything in season 4. And I think that this moment in particular really kind of portrayed that. Yeah, so on that note, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.